glutton, if you could eat all the bread you ever wanted every day, spiritually, you would still be hungry. And I want you to turn to the second passage of Scripture, and that is John chapter 6, verses 4 to 14. John chapter 6, verses 4 to 14. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was approaching. And Jesus looked up then, and seeing that a vast multitude was coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread, so that all these people may eat?" But he said this to prove or to test him, for he well knew what he was about to do. And Philip answered him, 200 pennies, that's about $40 worth of bread, is not enough that everyone may receive even a little. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There's a little boy here who has with him 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. But what are they among so many people?" And Jesus said, "Make all the people to sit down." And the ground was covered with thick grass at the spot, so the men threw themselves down, about 5,000 in number, and that was the men alone. Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to the reclining people. So also did he with the fish, as much as they had wanted. And when they had all had enough, he said to his disciples, "Gather up now the fragments, so that nothing may be lost and wasted." So accordingly they gathered them up, and they filled the 12 baskets with the fragments left over by those who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. And when the people saw the sign that Jesus had performed, they began saying, "Surely and beyond a doubt, this is the prophet who is to come into the world." And we see that this is another example of bread featuring in a gathering of the Israelites, of the Jews. Now, when the Israelites became hungry in the desert, the Lord wanted to teach them the lesson of looking to him, only to him, to provide for their physical needs. And we see that when the multitudes were hungry, after listening to Jesus for several hours, Jesus wanted them to look to him, only to him, to supply their needs. The first response we saw from Philip when Jesus asked the question was our typical human response. We're confronted with a problem and we immediately go to trying to figure out a solution. I wonder if Philip was an accountant actually, because the problem arose and Philip immediately started trying to work out, calculating 5,000 men, maybe 3,000 women, maybe, I don't know, about 2,000 children, and he multiplied by 1 penny, and if every man gets half a loaf, and then he comes up with the fact that even 200 pennies, which would have been a lot of money in that time, as a matter of fact, it would have been about half a year's salary or wages. Imagine half a year, half of what you're working for, going into one gathering. That's a serious offering. And Philip didn't realize that he had identified the main problem right there. Nothing we come up with on our own will ever truly be enough. Sooner or later, we will run out. And sooner or later, we will not have what we need to survive. Spiritually, we need the Lord. You know how crazy some of us get, especially here in St. Kitts, when there's a public holiday coming up or a hurricane, and we have this tendency of rushing to the supermarket. Even weekends, we rush to the supermarket because God forbid that we might run out of something. I always remember Judith's shop in Newtown. Anybody remember Judith? It was a wonderful place. Judith's shop held the sway before Best Buy, and it seemed like she was always open. I remember going in there Christmas Eve night, Christmas Day, because I'd forgotten something, and trust me, the place was packed, and all kinds of people you wouldn't expect. I remember saying to myself, she comes to Judith? different races of people. I don't know. It was just amazing. But you see, as human beings, we have become so supply focused. We tend to believe that all will be well if our bank account is healthy, if our cupboards are full, if we have a job, if we have the right relationships, enough clothes and shoes and a decent house, and. We pack the fridge off until it's almost like the fridge starting to buckle. And when it gets to that stage, we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, I need a bigger fridge. You remember that story where that Jesus told about the man who was thinking about all his stuff, and he said, you know what? I'm going to build myself some bigger bands. You know? And the problem with that was he didn't know that that very night his soul was going to be required of him. But this is our modern day mentality. I need a bigger fridge, a bigger car, a bigger house. You see, we look for our satisfaction in all of the things that will make us feel good for a while. And then we look at the things sometimes and we wonder why. Why did I even buy it in the first place? Why did I even get involved with him in the first place? Why did I need that in the first place? And there are two things that I have thought about from time to time. The first one is more for women, although it applies to some men as well. Have you ever been shopping? We just had the Black Friday sales and so on, or you go to the US and you go to the Walmart and that kind of thing, and you shop. You really, really shop. And then you get to the cashier and you think, wow, I didn't intend to pick up all this stuff. You ever get to the cashier and you just go into a little mini shock? And then sometimes some of us, we're too ashamed to put back some stuff. Lord deliver us. Oh, Lord have mercy. And you think to yourself, I didn't mean to take back all that stuff. And then you, especially when you're away, you go back to the house where you're staying, or you go back to the hotel, and the next challenge is, how am I going to fit all of this into the one little suitcase? I mean, and I have wondered, is it that there are demons that are assigned when you go shopping? Is it that they're sending some kind of gas through the vents? Because, you just go crazy. You all know that story about the husband and wife who had decided she was not supposed to buy anything else. She was not supposed to buy any more clothes. And she was doing okay for a while, and then she went shopping just to see what they had. You know how that is. You're just going to see. And it wound up that she bought this dress that she had to have. So she got home and she kind of hid it in the closet because she didn't want the husband to see. But eventually he stumbled across it and he said, honey, what is this? I thought we agreed no more shopping. She said, you know what? I was passing by the window and I saw this dress, and it was calling to me, and it's like the devil tempted me. And he said, but didn't you say, get thee behind me, Satan? She said, I did. And he said, girl, you look even better from the back. Been there. Anyway, the other thing that happens is, the other problem is that when we go shopping and we're hungry. That's ever happened to you? You go shopping and all sorts of things finds its way in the basket and the cart. Stuff that you can't even eat all of that one time. You know, but it happens. That's the human condition. And you see, when we look at the Israelites in the Old Testament, even though God told them just to collect enough manna for one day, that wasn't their mentality. Some people still tried to coop and save up some of the manna. And when they saved up some of the manna, we saw what happened. Worms. And that is what the fruit of self-effort will do. When we insist on working and working and working to accomplish, worms, failure, disappointment.
You have been watching a message from the New Birth Gospel Tabernacle Church in Keon, St. Kitts. To order the full version of this message, email us at newbirthmediatv@gmail.com or call 1-869-662-2200. Thank you for watching this presentation by New Birth Media. On behalf of the New Birth Gospel Tabernacle Church, we trust you were blessed by this message.
And you are